There are certain things that you can do with content types as a developer, so programmatically, that are not actually achievable with the user interface. So here we are in the Documents library, in Shared Documents, and I'm just going to create a new folder. Now the root folder allows us to create new items of type document, and I have created my new folder, and again, as you can see, we can only create content types of new document. Now in actual fact, the document library has additional content types that are assigned to it, so we will go and have a look at those. The first thing to do is look at the library settings and then look at the advanced settings to verify that content types are enabled. Content types aren't always enabled by default for all lists and libraries, so we have set that already. Notice that we have 3 content types, even though document is the only one visible on the new button. Now with the user interface you can change this for the library as a whole, but you cannot modify the distinct set of content types for folders within the library. It doesn't matter if I'm in the root folder or a subfolder, I always get to see the same content types on the new button if we set them this way. Now what we can do programmatically is modify that behaviour. So the easiest way to do this is with an event receiver. So I will create a new event receiver called libEvents, and I will choose the events that an item was added to the library. To give you an overview, what we're going to do is verify that a folder has been added, and if it has a specific name, then we will enable a specific content type for that folder. So we have a unique set of content types per folder in our library, that's our aim. And of course, as we've seen, that's something you cannot achieve with the user interface. So I add a using statement to system.collections.generic because that will be very useful for us in our code when we start iterating through collections of content types. The first block of code that I will add accesses the properties parameter of the event, and this allows us to access the item that was added. Now we build up 3 SP content type objects as well, and we set the first one to the content type of folder. So what we are going to do now is investigate whether the item that was added was a folder type. Notice we also have the content types for PO and quote. Let's first of all verify that the item added was a folder, and we can do this very straightforwardly by investigating whether the content type's ID of the added item is equal to the ID of a folder content type. In other words, did we add a folder? If we did, we will build a list of current content types for the folder, and we will also build a list of content types called CTS in this case. And that's what we're going to use to assign the content types to each individual folder. Let's have a look at a block of code that investigates whether the folder was called POs or whether it was called quotes. Now quite simply, if the folder was called POs, we are going to add the PO content type to the content type collection, and then specify that this folder's unique content type order is equal to that list of content types. If, however, the folder was titled quotes, we will run very similar code, but this time we will add the quote content type instead. So a few lines of code achieve something we cannot do using the user interface, and that's really all there is to this scenario. So let's build and deploy our solution. We can go to the Shared Documents library to verify that this works. We will switch to the Documents tab and create a new folder, and we'll call it POs. So this was one of those titles that our event receiver is checking for. When we look at the POs folder and we look at the new button, on the list is indeed just the PO content type that belongs to the library, but that was previously hidden as we saw. Let's go back up to the document library's root, and this time we will create another new folder called quotes. And again, this was one of the titles we were looking out for in our event receiver. So when we look at the new button for the quotes folder, indeed the content type is set to quote. Now we have a library with a basic content type of document that gets used in any other folder that isn't called POs or quotes. So let's verify that by creating a new folder called invoices. And we will look at the new button for the invoices folder. And indeed we just have documents as the content type. But for those 2 specific folders, quotes and POs, they each have their own individual content type. So we achieved something with code and content types that you can't do with the user interface.